It's the JFK assassination of Canadian SNL stars.
We're entering our flop era.
Shit's bleak out here. All right.
18 plus, who wants to get milked?
It's kind of quality we have here. Debate this.
I need the edge. I need what the raw, unfiltered internet can bring you.
This is probably only going to be the third or fourth dumbest thing I've said today.
That's for nobody.
Just out there raw dogging the internet.
Way more hog than I expected.
It's about as much hog as I anticipated.
This is going to be one of those episodes, isn't it?
Here comes the cow. Here comes the cow.
All right, let's get this over with so we can play Magic.
Hello and welcome to Debate This, the show where no one is right, but someone is definitely wrong. In this show, we take time out of our busy adult lives to talk about comic books, video games, and how TikTok was shut down for 16 hours in a new Coke Classic change to the algorithm.
Ugh, the only way you could have made me madder was bringing up Coke versus New Coke. I'm so angry.
I don't know what New Coke is.
Oh, we don't have time to unpack
thing
this.
In the 80s that they tried to change the formula of Coke and it was really bad and nobody liked it.
Yeah.
Running conspiracy is that they wanted to ditch cane sugar for high fructose corn syrup. So they switched to New Coke for half a year. Everyone hated it. And then Coke came back and was like, good news, we're returning to Coke Classic. And it was high fructose corn syrup when they came back.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great.
Listeners, we are coming at you with another flavor text commissioned by Buttthwomp Nation citizen Noah, last name redacted. Just a reminder, you can commission your own deep dive into the topic of your choice by heading over to patreon.com/debatethiscast and paying us $60. Once commissioned, we will look into the history and lore of any topic of your choosing, more or less, ranging from anime to comic books to trading card games, or like today's episode, improv comedy. That's right. Listeners, Noah has paid us to do a deep dive into a legend of improv comedy, the celebrity reporter Jiminy Glick, and his 2001 show, Prime Time Glick.
I said this before we hit record. I was like, if you had put a gun to my head and were like, I need you to name all of the possible flavor texts that you're going to be commissioned. Man, Primetime Glick wouldn't have made the top 100.
No.
I would not have generated that in 1,000 years because I didn't know.
I'm happy we're here.
I didn't know this show existed until it was commissioned for us.
Absolutely.
The hypothetical criminal with the gun to our heads would have ran out of bullets.
Would have.
Yeah.
Sure would have.
Not enough bullets to get to this guess.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, even if you gave me the umbrella of improv comedy, like we're doing an improv comedy flavor text, what do you think it's going to be on? That guy still runs out of bullets.
Comedy Central. Maybe even former SNL cast members wouldn't have gotten here.
Martin Short vehicles.
Vehicles.
I would have gotten there.
I would have gotten Santa Claus 3 before I would have gotten Primetime Glick.
When you said celebrity interviewers, I would have said Between Two Ferns.
Oh.
Like long before I would have guessed this one.
I would have said hot ones.
All children of Jiminy Glick in a creative sense.
I was actually going to say, I had written down Primetime Glick walked so Between Two Ferns could awkwardly run.
I think it's more so the Eric Andre show could run, but it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
So to sit in awe and listen to me spout information and lore today are, of course, my co-hosts, Matt, Tim Allen Cole, Todd, Bill Hader Thomas, and Andrew Larry David Henderson.
Yeah, these are accurate.
Yeah.
Just because we each equally love the person that you've attached to us.
Yeah, to a point where it's a key facet of your identity.
So,
Matt, I know you're going to agree with me, so I'm going to cut you off. And
Yeah.
that's not true at all. Last episode, you brought up Tim Allen. This episode, Andrew brought up a Tim Allen vehicle.
Well, it's just because I'm friends with you.
yeah,
And there's no record of that.
It's on the podcast.
I want that clip. I want that clip of just Matt going, it's on the podcast. Ooh, those levels will be good on the recording.
So, co-hosts, what can you tell me about Jiminy Glick or his show, Primetime Glick?
He's a sketch character played by Martin Short. Not Steve Martin, as I said in the pre-show before we started recording.
Nope.
And again, like big Between Two Ferns energy. Like backhanded statements and compliments while interviewing
Yeah.
and just saying absurd shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I do remember watching this on Comedy Central.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't.
Crazy.
Yep. I mean, I watched a lot of Comedy Central in 2002.
Sure.
Like,
sure.
I mean, when there was a large swath of my life where a decent amount of the pie chart of my day-to-day TV watching was SNL reruns.
Yeah.
So this fits nestled nicely in that period of time. I was also 12 and not very interested in celebrity culture. And this
Wonder
was
why.
certainly, really. And this was certainly like the show that if I had to watch something, it was on. It was not my favorite show.
Sure.
But I knew about it and I knew the bit and I knew enough about Martin Short. I mean, obviously you're going to get into it, Kyle, but I vaguely remember that this was already like this had been an established character before the show, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll get into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jiminy Glick.
Oh, wait, hold on. I
Oh,
didn't say what
you
I
didn't
know.
go.
And I have nothing to say, but I thought of this funny joke that I want to say. I'm 100% certain my dad could tell you about Jiminy Glick, and that's all I know.
Oh,
I've
what?
never met your dad in person, and I know for a fact he loves Primetime Glick.
Yeah, Jiminy Glick definitely was a character made for dads probably at a time when dads weren't watching this type of media, which is why the show was only on air for 3 seasons. Jiminy Glick is a character developed and portrayed by actor and comedian Martin Short, who has surged back into public consciousness following recent appearances on Jimmy Kimmel Live and Real Time with Bill Maher. I think he was like when Jimmy Kimmel goes on vacation, he has guest hosts. Mm-hmm. And Martin Short hosted at least an episode, if not a week of episodes, in character as Jiminy Glick, which spawned the Bill Hader interview I had the 3 of you watch before this podcast started recording. Short developed and debuted Glick on his short-lived sketch comedy show, The Martin Short Show. And that's actually there. I got that wrong because there were 3 different shows called The Martin Short Show at different points in time. One was a sitcom, one was a sketch comedy show, and the one Jiminy Glick was developed on was a legitimate talk show. This was a bit Short did on that talk show. That Martin Short Show aired for 1 season from 1999 to 2000 on Second City TV, a Second City Canadian television network.
Oh.
Kyle, real quick, and it's fine if you don't know the answer to this. Were those 3 the Martin Short shows like sequential? So it was like, okay, end of season 1, season 2, we're doing this other thing. Or were there gaps between them?
There were gaps. They were all different production companies and networks.
Sure.
It was the Martin Short Show 94, a sitcom. The show formerly known as the Martin Short Show, I think in 96, a sketch comedy show, and then the Martin Short Show, the talk show where this character was debuted.
So I've known for a long time that SCTV was Canadian and that it was helmed by Lorne Michaels of SNL fame. But it just dawned on me that stands for Second City TV.
Yeah.
That kind of blew my mind.
We'll talk about it here in a little bit. So quickly following the cancellation of the Martin Short Show 99, as I'll call it, Comedy Central signed Short for a 30-minute sketch show featuring Jiminy Glick called Primetime Glick. Both the Martin Short Show and Primetime Glick are comedic talk shows. Primetime Glick is a sketch show set in a quasi-fictional talk show that would serve as inspiration for shows like 30 Rock, Comedy Bang Bang, Between Two Ferns, and The Eric Andre Show. Between Two Ferns and The Eric Andre Show, I think, being the most direct spiritual successors to this. Although the, what was it, IFT... What's that channel? The Comedy Bang Bang Show. IFC. That reminded me a lot of this. I watched a lot of that when that was on. So we'll come back to Jiminy Glick and Primetime Glick towards the end of this episode. But I think we need to know more about Martin Short in order to appropriately appreciate this character. So you may know Martin Short as the third person who isn't Steve Martin or Chevy Chase in The Three Amigos.
Yeah.
The third person who isn't Steve Martin or Selena Gomez in Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Jack Frost in the Santa Claus sequel, If You're a Freak.
Everybody's talking about Tim Allen except for me.
It's because
You can if you want.
we wanted you to be comfortable talking about Tim Allen, Matt.
Yeah.
We just are trying to
we're
create
just
a
trying
safe
to-
space for you.
Right.
This is in the list of bits that suck. This is like 2 or 3. I'm really not happy about it.
Martin Short is a Canadian-American actor who I can best describe as your favorite comedian's favorite comedian type.
I don't think there's a better way to describe him than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
On
eloquent.
point. Yeah.
That is to say that while he's enjoyed a fair amount of success and influence on television and comedy, he has only recently become a household name, and that is because of Only Murders in the Building. And the second closest he flew to that sun was probably when The Three Amigos was a cultural touchstone, and it's not anymore.
Has anyone, this is just a side note, has anyone watched Only Murders in the Building?
I
This
think
guy.
Matt has. And it's like on my short list of shows. Now that
it's
supposed to be- it's supposed to be
my Martin
good,
short
right?
list.
Todd
Yeah.
and I in lockstep.
Immediately.
Yeah,
like
that's
a
good.
sleeper cell. Is it good? I've
Yeah.
also heard that it's good. It's just not hit my list yet.
I've really enjoyed it. It's a Hulu sitcom.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's
It's as good as a Hulu sitcom is, but like I've enjoyed it.
picked
And
up
Selena
some,
Gomez is really good.
It's picked up some Golden Globe nominations. Meryl Streep joined the cast, I think, in season 2. Like it's one of those
yeah.
like celebrities like being on it because it's a fun set, but it is also a Steve Martin Short vehicle for them to do their bits together. So yeah, I'm gonna check it out eventually. Now that it's gotten past my prerequisite 2 seasons that I need to come out before I commit to a streaming show.
Do you guys, I've always like, my headcanon has always been Nick Kroll and John Mulaney's Too Much Tuna is kind of just based on Martin Short and Steve Martin.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it is. Yes,
100%. Which we don't have time to get into what that is for
Yeah,
listeners
that's
who
an
don't
iceberg
know.
we're not ready for.
But give us $60 and maybe we will someday.
Too Much Tuna flavored text. Let's go.
Martin Short got his breakthrough in acting in 1972 after he finished a degree in social work in Canada, in Ontario,
Really?
I think. Yeah. He didn't want to dive right into social work. He wanted to take a stab at acting and moved to Toronto to do that because that's what you do in Canada if you want to be an actor, I guess. In 1972, he was cast in the Toronto debut of the musical Godspell alongside Victor Garber, who would go on to be Jesus in the movie, as well as Andrea Martin, Gilda Radner, and Eugene Levy, who you all may know from SNL fame, with Paul Schaefer as the musical director. So
That is
Awesome.
a who's who of Canadian. Who's who, eh?
Yeah.
an insane touch point in 5 Degrees to Kevin Bacon, 6 Degrees to Kevin
yeah.
Bacon,
Yeah.
is this 1972 production of Godspell, apparently.
It's the JFK assassination of Canadian SNL stars.
It really is.
People have been saying that for years, and I wish they'd say it more.
We're going to start it with this episode, with this flavor text episode. As Godspell was winding down in 1973, the Chicago improv troupe, The Second City, opened a second school in Toronto. While much of that Godspell cast would be in The Second City's first Toronto class, that's Eugene Levy, Gilda Radner, and Andrea Martin, alongside Dan Aykroyd. Short wouldn't audition for Second City until 1977, prompted by Eugene Levy following John Candy's departure from the troupe. Citing a phobia of being funny on demand is his reason for not immediately jumping onto that rocket with the rest of his Godspell cast. Martin Short started to break Canadian containment while working with Second City Toronto, landing roles on American sitcoms The Associates and I'm a Big Girl Now, which
Those are not in my
Nope.
knowledge.
But if you're a working actor in Toronto, landing sitcoms in America is probably a big deal. So good for him.
It's fair.
In 1982, Second City's sketch comedy TV show SCTV would be picked up by NBC, and Short would be a cast member alongside greats like Catherine O'Hara and Rick Moranis, among many, many others. Short would parlay that into a SNL cast membership in 84, off the popularity of his Ed Grimsley character. Does anyone know Ed Grimsley?
No.
I can only describe as a clumsy, nerdy goofball put into Ernest Goes to Jail type scenarios.
Okay.
This was apparently popular enough character. He developed it on SCTV, carried it over to SNL, where it was a popular character. It had one season of an animated kids show with Ed Grimsley. Also made an appearance in the 94 Martin Short sitcom that I watched an episode of in preparation for this today. So just an 80s comedy touchstone that has been lost to time, apparently. He's got a big, like, spiky cowlick, wears his pants way up around his belly button. It's like, think of an 80s nerd and put him into different Forrest Gump type situations, and that's an Ed Grimsley bit. Yeah.
No. I spilled tea everywhere.
Andrew,
I'm gonna have to take a minute.
Let's pause for Andrew to clean up his tea spill.
Whoever's editing, keep that in.
Following his time on SNL, Martin Short would go on to do stand-up specials for Showtime and HBO. This is the era of like the Three Amigos. Mars Attacks had a role in that.
He was in Mars Attacks?
Yeah, he was one of the senators. He was.
I think senator is
he was
the
in
right
Mars
answer.
Attacks. Yeah, and he won a Tony in 1999 for Best Male Lead in the revival of Little Me, a musical I've never heard of before, but apparently won Martin Short a Tony.
Cool.
This is also the era he would lead 3 failed iterations of The Martin Short Show.
Right.
The 94 sitcom, the 95 or 6 sketch comedy show, and the 99 daytime talk show.
The former of which forever go down as the Short of 93.
Yeah, the Short of 93.
You took my closing joke right out of my mouth, Andrew.
Oh, no.
Oh, man.
That 99 daytime talk show would be where Jiminy Glick first graced televisions. Following the cancellation of the Martin Short Show 99, Primetime Glick would be picked up by Comedy Central and run for 3 seasons and a movie. He would follow this run with more movie roles like Treasure Planet and The Santa Claus 3 and a whole bunch of stuff. He just did a lot of roles in this time.
Anytime you needed a below average height male character actor, comedic character actor, Martin Short is
there
your
was
guy.
Martin Short to fill that role. Following Primetime Glick, Short would star in a one-man show on Broadway and have a short stint on the sitcom How I Met Your Mother, before settling into a career doing a touring comedy act with Steve Martin following the death of his wife, Nancy Dolman.
Do you know what the name of their touring show is?
There were a few. I want to know which one's got you chortling to yourself.
I suppose it makes sense that there were a few. The one that was the most recent, because I remember giving away tickets for it when I worked at the radio station, was Steve Martin and Martin Short, A Night You'll Forget for the Rest of Your Life.
Yeah.
Which I just think is a really great name.
Yeah.
That was the only one.
That's really good.
I think I saw 3 names in the Wikipedia article, and that was the only one that got a link to a new article. So
I remember there was a Netflix, can't remember if it was a special or a limited series, but it was like Marty and Martin or something.
Yeah. That's all.
And it was,
That's all in this like gap between How I Met Your Mother season 7 and only murders
His
in
little
the building.
stint on How I Met Your Mother was really fun too. He played Marshall's boss.
Yeah, Marshall's insane and
Yeah.
unhinged boss. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, he's very good at that.
He is good. In 2021, the Only Murders in the Building debuted on Hulu with Short as an executive producer. He has been nominated for a few Golden Globes as producer and actor in that.
Real quick, because I don't know if we're ever going to get back to it. Matt, are you able to give like a tight one on what Only Murders in the Building is about?
Yeah, definitely. Steve Martin and Martin Short are two old guys who live in an apartment building, and Selena Gomez is a millennial who lives in that apartment building. And they all discover that they're into true crime, and so they start a true crime podcast about a murder that happened in their building. And the name of the podcast is Only Murders in the Building. Done.
Oh, because they only talk about murders in their building.
I thought you were going to swerve and that the podcast was not going to be named Only Murders in the Building somehow.
Oh, yeah, no, that's the
I
bit.
do very much appreciate the entire show is Steve Martin and Martin Short are old. Selena Gomez is a millennial.
That is 85% of the material.
Oh, I can imagine.
100%.
Yeah, Steve Martin especially loves leaning on that joke of, hey, I'm old now.
Yep.
It's great. With that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk exclusively about Jiminy Glick and Primetime Glick. We'll be right back.
Okay, now for the lightning round.
I'm so good at lightning rounds. That's from Friends. It's my favorite show.
20 seconds on the clock starts now. Who is the captain of the USS Enterprise?
Crap. Is it Captain Stubing? No, Morgan? Crunch?
Next question. Which superhero is Tony Stark?
Stark. Did Game of Thrones have superheroes? I only watched 2 episodes.
What planet were Luke and Leia born on?
Planet Fitness?
Oh, time's up. Sorry. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hey everybody, Mandy Kaplan here. Please check out my podcast, Make Me a Nerd, where each week an incredible guest tries to baptize this mainstream mom into the world of sci-fi, fantasy, and all things nerdy. Available wherever you podcast.
That's our show, folks.
Wait, I just thought of it. Padme Amidala gave birth to her twins Luke and Leia on Polis Massa. No, that's dumb. Is it Planet Hollywood?
All right, we are back, and now for what you are all here to listen to, us get down with the glickness.
Hell yeah,
really
brother.
It's really good.
Down with the glickness.
Jiminy Glick is credited as an entertainment reporter. As I said before, he first appeared on the Martin Short Show 99 in a segment called Out and About with Jiminy Glick. All subsequent Glick interviews would have this title. Whenever it shows up, it's the same clip art animation that was in the Martin Short Show, maybe updated with a new picture of Martin Short in the costume. Out and About with Jiminy Glick can be best described as absurdist satire of celebrity interviews. Short as Glick leans on shock referential humor and grotesque physical comedy, while mostly trying to get his celebrity guests to break or drop character on screen.
The most distinct memory I have of his physical comedy is never being able to sit in a chair.
Yeah, he's always sliding. He's always sliding out of his chair.
Man.
Which is always funny.
It's really good.
Yeah.
He also always has like a plate of donuts or messy food nearby, and like when he's gotta like bail on a bit or pivot, he'll like mash a whole donut into his mouth to like buy himself some time.
Mm-hmm.
I watched one with Julia Louis-Dreyfus where he like stands up in one of those like folding directors types chairs at one point doing his like can't stay seated bit and just completely topples over. Just great physical comedian Martin Short. We will have clips in the show notes to watch because it's one of those things I can't describe it. An audio format is a horrible representation of what is appealing about this bit. Jiminy Glick is mostly just Martin Short in a fat suit. He has said in interviews that the comedian Skip E. Lowe was the original inspiration for the character. Skip was an openly gay comedian in the 50s who started a show on Los Angeles public access television where he'd interview actors. He was on the air for decades doing this show. He's hosted over 4,000 interviews with actors ranging from like local small-time actors to big names, big name actors in LA. If you click the link here in the show notes, you can see a little clip of Skip at the end of his life, near the end of his life. And you can, I think it's pretty clear, like you can see where the inspiration for Jiminy kind of comes from with this character.
He is calling this guy out for not reading his book, the man that he is interviewing.
Yeah.
I love that energy.
Yeah.
He's got a little bit, I can't remember his name, but he was in Will and Grace, like the old short man who
I also
Karen's nemesis in Will and Grace. I forget
I don't know who that is, but
Leslie Jordan. Yeah,
definitely is an
he
archetype.
passed a couple years ago.
Yeah. Where was I? In the continuity of Primetime Glick, Jiminy was born Malcolm Glickman in Akron, Ohio.
That's pretty good.
I'll just read this.
There's lore.
There's lore. I'll just read this Wikipedia page real quick because there's some good nuggets in here. Also, due to like the improvisational nature of the bit, he has said conflicting things.
Oh, of course.
About his origin.
Oh, perfect.
All over the place. So, born Malcolm Glickman on March 12th, 1948 in Akron, Ohio, although he is claimed to have been born in Omaha, Nebraska, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana, also at different points in the show. Jiminy Glick was the middle child of 10 children of Omar and Isabella Glickman. He describes himself as a Tibetan American who was often a loner and made fun of for his obesity at an early age. He said he never liked the name Malcolm and was given the nickname Jiminy after crickets laid eggs in his anus.
That sentence didn't end where I thought it would.
Sure didn't. Glick also told Larry David that Jiminy is his real name, given to him because his parents were of the Baha'i faith. In an interview with Ben Stiller, though, he asserted that he and his wife were Buddhists. There was one more bit in here that I wanted to hit. Oh, the last bit here. Glick is married to a heavily medicated alcoholic Southern woman named Dixie, portrayed by Saturday Night Live veteran Jan Hooks. Together they have, quote, 4 wonderfully strapping boys, Morgan, Mason, Matthew, and Modine.
Modine.
Named for actors Morgan Mason and Matthew Modine.
Yeah.
Morgan and Mason are teenage twins, and Matthew and Modine are 10-year-old twins. They are actually triplets, but they sent away the third one because 2 was so much already. That's Jiminy Glick. Jiminy Glick has lore, in case you needed it.
Malcolm Jiminy Glickman sounds like a baseball player from the 20s.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Here comes Malcolm Jiminy Glickman.
No one names their kid Malcolm anymore. Let's bring that back.
That's a crime.
Yeah.
Sorry if your name is Malcolm. And
Sorry if your name is Malcolm.
Malcolm's getting the chat.
Some bits that Glickman relies on, or short as Glick rely on, is, as I said before, just keeping a plate of food nearby and mashing like a donut or chocolate cake, something messy, into his mouth when he's got a cover for a bit gone sideways or almost breaking. He does the Steve Carell bit of like slightly mispronouncing common phrases or words. One here is that he frequently says he takes ginkgo biloba as a memory aid, although he often points out the catch-21 is that he never remembers to take it.
What a stupid bit.
It's really dumb.
It's so dumb that it's like, huh, all right.
Yeah.
It gets a pass. It's so stupid.
It's smart, dumb humor, which is some of my favorite type of humor.
Another bit he does a lot is he will, when interviewing a celebrity guest, he will bring up another celebrity that shares a birthday with that guest. These are never accurate, entirely made up, and it's just an excuse to like launch into some bit he has about the celebrity who he claims shares the birthday with the actor.
Kyle, the clip that you shared, the Bill Hader clip, another like vague memory, and I don't know how often this was, but I feel like part of the like goal was to never let the interviewee speak, or to let them speak as infrequently as possible.
Constantly interrupting the interviewee. Yeah. As soon as they start to get a foothold on an anecdote or something, he'll cut them off and pivot and throw them off entirely. Again, the whole thing is just trying to get them to break, whether they are in on the bit or not. It's to get them to break character on screen. This brings us to Primetime Glick. Primetime Glick first aired on June 20th, 2001 on Comedy Central. It was in the after 10 p.m. slot when they could say shit and fuck, mostly for that reason. Was a sketch show with the premise of a late night talk show hosted by its crass, boisterous namesake. There's always an opening number, which is improv'd by Martin Short over the house band, and then he'll claim it is from a fake musical, and a monologue, which usually highlights some trouble Glick has gotten himself into in the last episode. This is the bit I watched that made me think of 30 Rock, where it was a cutaway that throws to another cutaway in this monologue.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So he sets up I did an interview with who the CNN guy,
Larry King.
I did an interview with Larry King, and it cuts to that, which is Larry King portrayed by some other actor. And then in that interview, they cut to the embarrassing incident Jiminy Glick got himself into. Cutting back to the Larry King interview, cutting back to the show. Just very ahead of its time, I think.
Yeah.
2001 was not ready for this show, especially 3 months out from 9/11.
In 2001, we barely normal lay people barely knew what improv comedy was.
Yeah.
Well,
right? Think about, when did Whose Line Is It Anyway come out?
Whose Line Is It Anyway started really, really early.
Right,
man.
Sure, but what I'm saying is I feel even if you were a comedy fan, improv comedy was playing improv comedy games Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was not. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This was
long
the first
form improv didn't exist.
The 4D, exactly. The 4D chess of I'm going to watch Martin Short try to break another celebrity on this fake interview show. That very much ahead of its time. Something that you would see on YouTube now.
Yeah.
I will also throw out that in this same monologue, after he came back from the Larry King cutaway, he then cut to himself in drag portraying an audience member in the same monologue opening bit. Just insanity. This was also a thing in the episode of the 94 Martin Short sitcom that I watched, bit cutaways within cutaways. It seems to be a favorite of his, and good on him, because it was done very well every time. That's more or less it. After this opening monologue, he does 2 celebrity interviews per Primetime Glick episode. The first one is in studio. This episode I watched, it was Bill Maher who came in and, tried to Bill Maher up the place, but couldn't because of Jiminy.
Glick wasn't having that.
Glick wasn't having it. And then he cuts to commercial, which always comes back with a fake ad. This one was a fake DVD, embarrassing celebrity moments caught on film 6, which featured the incident he talked about on his fake Larry King bit.
Oh, good.
And then he came back and did a Out and About with Jiminy Glick, which was a Steve Martin interview with Steve Martin fully aware of the bit, trying his very best and failing to counter break Steve Martin. Was very good. It's 2 improv comedy greats battling it out. We'll put a clip in the show notes too, because that was a very good bit.
He interviewed, first off, just some big names, but also
Huge
Daryl
names.
Hammond from SNL played Dick Cheney in one of his interviews.
Oh, good.
And I need to find that clip because that was,
Yeah.
what year was that? I'm trying
I mean,
to.
it probably would have been 2002, right?
Season 1, yeah.
Yeah, late 2002 then.
That was when Daryl Hammond
my
was playing
God.
Dick Cheney in SNL.
Yeah.
Good luck, because
God.
this show is not officially streaming anywhere. I was able to find the first episode on YouTube, and I think a couple of more episodes throughout the 3 seasons are on YouTube. You can rent it through Tubi if you want to pay
Can
money
rent
for
it
it.
through Tubi? That's
Ooh.
crazy.
But like Regis filmed
Yep.
like David Duchovny. Apparently he was supposed to interview Russell Crowe, but Russell Crowe left before the interview. I love
I like
thinking
that.
that like his manager got him there, and then he's like,
Oh, yeah.
he's like, I should probably like the vibes are off for some
Yeah.
reason. And then he saw a clip of whatever happened before that, and he's like, "Oh, absolutely not.
I'm not gonna have any part of this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm set to be in Gladiator the movie. I would like to leave."
I would like to not do this, please. Yeah. Season 2 opener is Tom Hanks and Ben Stiller when
Oh,
man.
Ben
wow.
Stiller was at the height of his
Yeah.
career. Brendan Fraser at peak Brendan Fraser fame. Ice Cube,
Oh, good.
a whole Mel Brooks, Jason Alexander episode. Just great. Great guests. That was one thing I forgot. I saw and didn't have a good place to fit in here is when Mel Brooks was doing Producers the musical, he originally came to Short for the role that ended up going to Nathan Lane on Broadway.
okay.
And then when the show went to LA, Short did play that role for a little bit.
Nice.
So, yeah. Primetime Glick wrapped its 3rd season in 2003. And then in 2004, there was the movie Jiminy Glick in La La Wood.
Sure.
Okay.
Jiminy Glick goes to the Toronto International Film Festival where a murder takes place and he finds himself solving the murder.
Sure, he did.
That's
Yeah.
got big, like, Pokemon straight to VHS movie vibe, right? Like,
Oh,
Jiminy
yeah.
Glick was finding the mythical Pokemon of that generation.
Yeah. The film starts off with a Entertainment Tonight spoof, but develops into a murder mystery where
Good.
David Lynch, played by Martin Short, serves as a makeshift Hercule Poirot for the movie.
What a sentence. Also,
Yeah.
that feels like proto Borat in a weird way.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
This would have been same time as Borat.
I just looked. Borat was 2006.
Yeah, this would
Well,
have been
the
the same
movie.
time as Ali G.
Yeah, this would have been the same time
which
as
is
the Ali
which is
G
what
show.
Borat was based on. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Celebrity cameos in this movie include Willem Dafoe, Whoopi Goldberg, Jake Gyllenhaal, Rob Lowe, Steve Martin, Kurt Russell, Susan Sarandon, Kiefer Sutherland, and Forrest Whitaker.
And like again, this was Comedy Central in 2001. Like The Daily Show wasn't that popular.
Yeah.
I mean, they had like 3 years of South Park under their belt
Yeah.
at this point.
The Daily Show would have probably,
The Daily Show would have
Just
just
take it-
started
would've-
popping off in the Bush years. But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
wild.
That is Jiminy Glick and Primetime Glick. What do we think?
Wild.
It's great. Like this is just feel good stuff. I mean, I think like you had said, this being the precursor to Eric Andre or Between Two Ferns, like it is really funny to think about those two mediums and then subtract 15 or so years from them. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
this is the content that you're getting, which is just right. Like, when they were doing it back in the 90s, you weren't going to get Eric Andre in the 90s. You weren't
Yeah.
going to get Zach Galifianakis doing what he was doing in the 90s. And so I think this is fun. I like it. I mean, Martin Short's great. Like it's feel good stuff.
If Martin Short wasn't the age he was, and maybe if YouTube had been a thing 5 years earlier, this is definitely the type of show that could have gone viral on YouTube.
Yeah.
He seems to have always been a star of like a small time network that comedy nerds watched, like Second City TV was not widely viewed, but it had half of SNL's opening cast on it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think you nailed you nailed it with Comedy Bang Bang. Like Comedy Bang Bang is
Yeah.
also in the like your favorite comedian's favorite comedy
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of theme. Yeah.
I think it's interesting too that this is one of those characters that like really spun off, because I grew up, my dad being a big SNL fan. I didn't watch a ton of SNL as a kid, but like my dad would show me a lot of bits as the years went on. And, you know, like the Hans and Franz, we are here to pump you up guys.
Yeah.
The two wild and crazy guys whose character names I don't remember. Eddie Murphy's Gumby. Like SNL characters used to have a lot more staying power. And it's so interesting to like look back, because I think the thing
Well, there's
in
stuff
my
like
mind,
the Coneheads
yeah,
was an SNL character.
and they had a couple of movies.
It had a couple of movies.
Yeah. But I think the biggest thing in 2025 that this reminds me of is Very Important People on Dropout.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
the direct correlation for me. And thinking of like Tommy Shrigley from Zach Oyama last season, getting
Yes.
3 seasons in a movie of that bit
Oh my
is
God.
crazy.
Because
Yeah.
it's just him trying to make Vic break, and that's exactly what it is, which is different than like Between Two Ferns and Eric Andre, which is like they are trying to do a different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wayne's World was the other one I was reaching for. Wayne's World was an SNL bit before it was two movies.
It's just really interesting to think about content or like media coming from the character, because I feel like
Yeah.
that is not something that has stuck around as the years have gone on, you know?
No. And this was, so like Blues Brothers was the first SNL movie, and that trend seems to have ended in 2010 with MacGruber, the Will Forte character on SNL.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think you could argue that the troops have still been getting movies. Like, I mean, Hot Rod isn't a character movie, but like that's an SNL movie.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
like
that's a
the
Lonely
one that-
Island movie.
Yeah, and then what are the guys that do the stuff now? They had a movie too, and I would argue that's an SNL movie. I
Oh,
forget what they're called. Please don't destroy.
Please don't destroy.
Yeah, they did a movie a couple years ago right after COVID, and like I would argue that's an SNL movie.
Yeah, and I'm looking. I pulled up a Wikipedia article of SNL feature films, and that doesn't have like Baby Mama, the Tina Fey,
Yes.
Amy Poehler
Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely an SNL movie. Like
Anything that Lorne Michaels produces is an SNL movie. You can't. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah. Thank you all for joining us today, listening to Debate This. You can follow along with the arguments on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Debate This Cast, or on our website at debatethiscast.com. I guess that's not Twitter now. That's Blue Sky. We're on Twitter. We're on Blue Sky.
We're not on
Facebook,
Blue
and
Sky.
Threads.
I haven't made Blue Sky.
We're not on
Threads.
Blue Sky.
We will be
We're
on Blue
If-
Sky.
Oh God, somebody make us a Blue Sky account.
We're at
You can follow along on
debate this debatethiscast.bbluesky.com/blue sky.
Is that it? Is that really it?
Blue.
Yeah, that's it.
Have you ever come to the end of an episode
Have you
like
ever
this?
come?
Have you ever come?
Please
You ever come
don't.
to the end of an
Stop.
episode like this and found yourself wondering, man, I really like listening to Debate This 3 out of 4 Tuesdays every month. I just wish I could somehow turn that 3 into a 4. Well, dear listener, I have great news for you, and it's called the Debate This Premium feed. And it's available right now through our Patreon, patreon.com/debatethiscast. So a lot of website URLs thrown around in this last paragraph.
It's a lot of them out there on the internet right now.
Yeah.
A lot of websites.
So many websites.
It's the new big thing.
Yeah.
Subscribing at the low price of $5 a month will get you all the current and past episodes of our exclusive Patreon show, Deconstructed, a Disney Channel original movie watch-along podcast, where I think our next episode is going to be Up, and Away, a decom superhero movie.
I heard it's good. I haven't watched
Yeah.
it yet, but I hear it's
Holds
good.
up. Holds up.
Also get all the episodes of our Real Play D&D podcast, The Office Drones, which spun out of an episode of Debate This.
Spun out of a dare.
Spun out of a dare. It's 75% cheaper than your standard issue battle pass, and there's no grinding necessary.
Grinding optional.
Grinding very optional. Until next time, I've been your host, Kyle Harper.
I'm Matt Glick. Start my heart. Cole.
I'm Todd. Martin Short and Sabrina Carpenter's musical special, Martin Short and Sweet. Thomas.
And I'm Andrew. He's a Glick and I'm drowning slowly. Henderson.
That's so good. And we're saying thanks for debating with us. And if you think we're wrong, you can come fight us behind the swing sets, nerds.
Ben Folds reference. And
Ben
we love
Folds
that.
reference after I made a Disturbed reference.
Ooh,